Hi everyone, I'm GREYMOND. Today I'm continuing to answer questions about OCD recovery. These are the questions that you asked me. Below, ask a question about OCD video. First question is advice when you have intrusive thoughts or desire without anxiety. So again, intrusive thought means OCD. It can come with anxiety, it can come without anxiety, it can come as an urge, it can feel like you want this thought. I would say if it has to do with your theme, it's OCD disregard. Doesn't matter how it come in. It can come in as a form of a thought, it can come in as a form of an image. It doesn't really matter. It came in, you're disregarding. Came in again, you're disregarding again. If that's a million times a day, then that's a million times a day. Because you have to send a message to your brain that this is no longer important and there's really no other way to do it. Next question is, has to do with the distinction between good and bad. For example, if I see someone in the media I don't like, I get feelings which tell me this person will never be good, and I feel this as an unbearable tragedy, along with anxiety so high that my eyes widen and jaw clenches. How do I refocus when my OCD thoughts change every subject I think of into this aforesaid tragedy? They hit me almost every minute. It's frustrating to try to refocus on something else all the time because I can't finish a single opinion in my head and I want to. So I don't think in this case, refocusing is running away from the thought because you're scared of the thought and then you run away from it. So instead, you want to stay with the thought and say, yep, it's a giant tragedy. Yep, it's all over. It's all over now. And just sit with it. And at first, your anxiety, when you say this, try to say it as sarcastically as you possibly can. But your anxiety when you do this will still be at a 10. And just keep practicing this all the time. You will see that the anxiety will start to drop. But when it's that anxiety curve that you think of a person, you think of how bad they are, how this is a tragedy, your anxiety is going up as this is happening, it hits a peak, and then this is where you usually kind of run away and you try to refocus on something else. But you want to sit with the thought and say, yeah, it's a terrible, terrible tragedy. Yep. Until you will see that as you keep kind of repeating it, right, and saying, yep, this is the worst thing that could possibly ever happen, you know, as this happens, you will see that it starts to kind of drop in intensity. It can't maintain that intensity for a long, long time. So it will drop in intensity and then it will start to subside. And that's when you refocus. So don't refocus as a method to get away from the anxiety is what I'm saying. Next question is, hi Ali, what do you think about, and I'm saying this word wrong probably, but ashwagandha as a natural remedy, is it effective in OCD? To be honest, I don't know. I haven't seen really natural stuff. I mean, with OCD, because it's not just anxiety, it's a very specific problem that the person is trying to solve. So no matter really what you take, that problem is still spinning in the mind. So that's why it's hard to say that medication works for OCD because the person is still really worried. So it might kind of, take down anxiety a little bit, but, that's probably the best that you can expect. Again, I don't know about this specific um, uh, remedy, but it's from everything I've seen, I always say valerian root. Valerian root just takes the anxiety down a notch, but because it's fast acting, it helps and it has really no side effects. So if you want to try anything natural, I would start with that. It's available pretty much everywhere. It's in the vitamin section, so you're not really losing anything by trying. I think it's like $5. So try it and see how that works for you. But it just takes things down a notch a little bit, makes you a little more, it's supposed to be as a sleeping aid, but it's not really a sleeping aid in this case. It just makes you a little bit more relaxed. Next question is, I'm suffering with OCD for 25 years. Thoughts about my wife. Every time my mind has intrusive thoughts, how do I recover from this? So when these thoughts come in, just look at them as OCD thoughts. Don't try to judge them. Don't try to analyze them. Don't try to figure them out. They're just OCD thoughts. So what? The more you put guilt to it, the more you put shame to it, the more you think, oh, I shouldn't be thinking this. This is so bad. Why would I be thinking this? Don't do that. Just say, it's an irrelevant thought. Who cares? An irrelevant thought came into your mind just like it can come into anybody's mind, and it got stuck. And it got stuck because of how strongly you reacted to it. Because you reacted with so much fear, your brain's like, oh, this is scary to you. I'll keep this here. If you would have just reacted like this is irrelevant right from the beginning, it would have never stuck. So this is how you have to start to react now. For a while, it will keep sending you the thought over and over again, but then it will stop. So it's just this process of unplugging. Next question is, I have the same issue with my OCD in dreams, and I wake up with them. Once I'm awake, I can recognize this as OCD, but then I find it difficult to get back to sleep. I try to disregard, but it is as if I'm disturbed, and therefore I find it hard to drift off to sleep. Do you have any suggestions about dealing with it? So I think you're generally doing everything okay. Try to, if you can, don't go to bed with an attitude of I hope I don't have a bad dream, because that fear is what actually keeps them coming. So try to do the opposite. So I hope I have a bad dream so then I can practice ERP when I have it. And then if a bad dream happens, then kind of assess the situation. So if you feel like you can't go to sleep right now, try to listen to an audiobook or a guided meditation. Any guided meditation on YouTube will do, or browse the internet for a little bit just to kind of get sidetracked. Not for a long time, but just a little bit, just to get sidetracked and be able to go to sleep. I don't really want you to look at the screen though as much, but it's like, it depends on the situation. So if you feel like you can possibly go back to sleep, then try to. But if you can't, then do something else just to refocus a little bit, and then try to go to sleep again. But look at it as normal process in OCD. Dreams are very common, like OCD dreams are very common when you're dealing with OCD. So don't look at it as anything special. Yeah, it's happening to me. It's happening to a lot of other people as well. So doesn't mean anything. I'm moving on. Next question is, hi Ali, thank you so much for helping. I have pure OCD. How can I do ERP for sexual images? What can I do in order to stop these images from sticking in my mind all day long? So the more, it doesn't matter what image comes in, the more you get scared of this image. Why is it coming in? What does it mean? And you're trying to solve it, the worse it's gonna get. So instead, just look at it, whatever, don't care, moving on. Really try to be indifferent to it. Even though your anxiety is high, try to be indifferent to the best of your ability. It's kind of like acting. If you're showing your brain that you no longer care, it will stop sending them. But if you react very kind of with a lot of fear to every time this image comes in, or every time an OCD thought comes in, you're sending a signal that this is important. And then your brain just sends you more of the same. So the more you look at it as like, okay, another image, nice try, don't care, moving on, the less it's going to start coming in. But it might take a few weeks to get back on track, or to start to get back on track rather. And then it will start to get back on track, but every once in a while it will still send you one. So when it sends you one, it doesn't mean that you're slipping back into OCD or anything like that. It just means that your brain is just making sure, doing its own reassurance to make sure that you are safe. So it's important that if you're getting an image at some point, say only one image a week, that you really react correctly so you don't start to slip back. Because if it gives you an image once a week and then you react really strongly to that image, you're going to start to slide back. Because then it's going to be like, oh, you reacted, I'll give you more. And then it starts to be kind of worse and worse, and then you start to react more to the more images, right? So it just continues. So doesn't matter how many, one image a week or one image every minute, it doesn't matter. We're just saying, who cares? Just an image, just a faulty signal in the brain, we're disregarding, just like that. And the content of it, sexual image, some other image, harm image, it's really irrelevant. It's just sending whatever you got scared of last time. Next question is, which is the best method for managing OCD thoughts? My therapist recommended me the thought stopping method, but I don't find it very effective. Um, well, thought stopping doesn't work, because if thought stopping worked, then nobody would have OCD. So you just have to let the thought be there. Whatever your brain sends, look at it as, well, the brain is just being creative and is just trying to send me different thoughts that are kind of the same but just different detail, right? I think I said in one of the previous videos that, you can have pasta under red sauce, under white sauce, but it's still pasta. At the end of the day, you're still having pasta. It's the same thing. It's still OCD. It can be this theme, that theme, but it's still your OCD themes that bother you that are coming in on repeat over and over again. So we just say it's OCD. And if there's a physical symptoms attached to it, different emotions attached to it, such as like people always say, well, I'm not always, but a lot of the time say that I'm not only getting OCD thoughts, I'm also getting feelings of guilt, feelings of shame. I'm getting images, all of these kinds of different things. So that's also part of your OCD, bouquet, so to speak, if you want me to use kind of a more, abstract terms, right? So this is what it is. This is your OCD package. And the better you get to know it and you say, well, this is part of the package, so I'm not dealing with it right away. So you know the traits of your specific type of OCD, how it comes in. And if it follows that, and it doesn't have to follow that 100%, but if it more or less follows it, then it's OCD. I would say if it has to do with your theme, it's OCD, move on. So when I'm saying it's OCD, move on, we're not stopping the thought. The thought will still be there. Yeah, okay, you chose to move on, but the thought is still there. It's unsolved. You're living with uncertainty. But as you are refusing to give it attention, you're cutting that oxygen off for it, right? So as you're doing that, you will see that the thoughts are starting to kind of lose power. And even though they're there, they're not as strong. And eventually they kind of go away fully. Next question is, hi Ali, I'm on OCD recovery since I'm watching your channel. I noticed since I'm doing better, eye floaters. Is this a common physical thing of OCD? What can I do? So first of all, a word of caution to all the people who are dealing with sensory motor OCD. This is not a common thing, and eye floaters are generally can happen to people. It doesn't mean anything, because I don't want people to get caught up and triggered by this. Okay. To be honest, I have not heard a lot about eye floaters as connected to OCD. I don't really even think I've ever heard anything to do with it. But again, this is just, well, this is from 10 years talking to clients, so I haven't really heard of it. I mean, but eye floaters generally happen with people, right? They can happen with people. So I think it's more a coincidence that it's happening at the same time. It might not necessarily be. I believe somewhere I did read at one point that it has something to do with anxiety. So I don't know. And I don't really want you to research it. Your job right now is to focus on OCD recovery and to recover. And once you recover, if this is still an issue, I would say go see a doctor after that. But if you find that you're starting to get really caught up on, are they there? Are they not? And especially if this is, I don't know, your story, right? So if, you had sensory motor OCD in the past, so anything to do with physical sensations, and now you're noticing it, now you're noticing this, then that sounds like sensory motor to me. But either way, recover first, put OCD as priority, and then if this is still an issue, then deal with it after. Because if you start to obsessively deal with it, it's not good. Again, I'm not a doctor. This is just my opinion. This is what I would do if I were in your situation. Next question is, I have a question on how to go about the recovery. I mean, after the course of 6 months, you're done with the recovery and you're all healed in your head. What should be the mindset and the attitude? Can I put that light on it? And another thing, once I'm recovered, can I plan a holiday after 6 months? Will I get anxious again in my mind? Will I have total control over my thinking process? Okay, so what I'm saying, no, your thinking is not really correct with this. What I'm saying is when a person really puts effort into their recovery, it takes about 6 months. I don't mean exactly 6 months on the day. I mean, for some people it takes 2 months. For some people it can take a year. 6 months is generally average, but say if on the fourth month something happens and you start to slip, that 6 months can easily turn into 8 months. Or if you go really strong and you really push, you might feel better after 2 or 3 months. So this is definitely not set in stone, and you need to focus on the everyday. Whenever people, I find that it's good to have a goal, but really when people tell me, I want to recover by Christmas, I want to recover by my birthday, that doesn't mean a lot, because yes, you want to, but what are you doing about it right today? Right now, this hour, are you going to be giving into compulsions? Because if you're going to be giving into compulsions this hour, this day, then I don't know how you're going to be magically better by this kind of marker time, because you're not doing the work now. So you need to look at it very seriously and say each day, right? Like make a chart for yourself, or just use a calendar and just put how much effort did you actually put in disregarding. How much did you disregard? It's not how high your anxiety was, but how much did you put into disregarding? And if you put 100% effort, if you truly chose not to do compulsions, chose not to obsess, try to delay, then I would say 6 months figure is accurate. But again, it's a day by day push, and day by day struggle, and day by day recovery. So I wouldn't be, and at the end of 6 months, you want to make sure you're going into a peaceful, calm situation as much as possible. So if you're like, let's do this, let's do that, you're going to put yourself in stress. Go on a holiday, put yourself in stress as you are getting back. And I have a lot of clients who are going on holidays in the recovery. And I can tell you, most clients feel worse either on the holiday or most of the time directly after. So you need to be in the place of calm. Don't change your surroundings. Don't make any drastic changes. Just focus on recovery. And then once you recover, do all the other stuff, but it is a daily thing. That's the end of the questions for today. Thank you so much for watching. If I haven't replied to your question today, I will be back tomorrow. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please subscribe. The one thing I wanted to mention is, as you know, I do have the recovery program if you want one-on-one help. But please don't email me with a question, because I'm getting a lot of questions. Literally, a person thought, I'm just going to ask Ali a question. Nobody else has ever thought of this. I'm just going to write her an email, ask her a question, see if she replies. As of right now, give me a second, I have 532 emails. Of these, hey Ali, I just wanted to ask you a question. So when you feel an urge to ask me a question, you're going to be 533rd person trying to do so. And I suggest either doing the Q&A, or like I said, the recovery program is there. It's way below cost compared to any other therapist pretty much out there, any other coach, any other doctor, and I'm not a therapist, I'm not a doctor, I'm a coach, as you know, but the rates, I think my rates are pretty much the lowest across the board for anybody who specializes in OCD. So the options are definitely there. Please don't email me questions, because I simply cannot reply to that many. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you tomorrow.